Louis Patron back with the Key West Lou Legal Hour. At the break, I was talking about ag farms, corporate farms. These big farms are now running our foodstuffs. They grow the food, and when they grow the food, these major corporations, they genetically modify the seeds. In other words, they shoot chemicals into them. They do experiments, just like people do with rats in the lab and so forth. They do experiments to make the seed produce the bigger tomato, the bigger potato, the most beautiful strawberries you've seen in your life, so large in the color. And is this healthy for us? And they got problems. One of the problems is this is a secret business. You can't sue them, I've already told you, if you get sick from this. Federal law says you can't sue them. Now, they got smart lobbyists. They're big time. You can't take pictures in certain states of their farms. If you happen to take a picture of something going on at the farm, that's considered terrorism under the law. Terrorism. And the states that have laws like this are Utah, Kansas, Arkansas, Iowa, and Missouri. There are also laws to make this terrorism in 11 other states. The laws are pending. Now, what have they got to hide? What are they hiding? It makes me uncomfortable because what they grow, I eat. And why can't I have a little viewing and exploration? What's wrong with me taking pictures through the fence or going through the plant and taking a picture? What's there to hide? That's all I ask. I ask the question, what is there to hide? What are they afraid of? There's got to be something wrong here with their product. Got to be. It hasn't come out yet. Now, labeling. Let's go back to labeling. I told you that there are laws that we're the only country that really doesn't label. We don't say genetically modified seeds. 64 other countries do. The state of Nevada has decided they're going to require labeling on any foods sold in their supermarkets, their stores, their grocery stores, and if there's genetically modified seeds, that must be on the label, okay? No problem, that's what they want. Let me tell you what Monsanto is doing. Let me tell you what DuPont is doing that's big in the business. And Bayer's in this thing too, our friend Bayer. Here's what's happening. This is on the ballot for November in Nevada. It's Initiative 552. Monsanto has already spent $4.6 million to beat this from passing, this labeling. It's a separate issue on the ballot in November in Nevada. They've already put in $4.6 million to fight it. DuPont's put in $3.2 million. Bayer's put in $562,000. And Monsanto and the big companies that have ag farms belong to some sort of group that's supposed to advertise for them and protect their interests. It's called the Grocery Manufacturers. Isn't that nice? Manufacturers? Grocery Manufacturers of America. They put in $2.2 million to beat this effort in Nevada. What am I saying here? All I'm saying is we should be aware of what's going on. I got a feeling that someday somebody's going to start getting sick from these genetically modified things. They won't be able to sue. Then we're going to have all kinds of lawsuits over that. But for you and me who might get sick, what are you going to do? This could be bad sicknesses. This could be deformity sicknesses. I don't know. These are genetically modified seeds from which our food grows. Let's stay with food for a minute. I'm done with Monsanto. I'm done with supermarkets. I'm not talking about that. But I want to talk about contaminated food, and I want to talk about terrorism in the same regard. Since 9/11, starting with the day after 9/11, okay, it's 12 years ago, 36,000 people have been killed in the United States by contaminated food. 36,000 people ate something that was contaminated. It was toxic. It was, they got salmonella, E. coli, or some bad thing. And it came generally from where it was produced or grown or first packed, and they die. 36,000 people in this country, 12 years, died from contaminated food. In the whole world, other than military wars, in the whole world I'm talking about now, only 323 people died from acts of terrorism. 36,000 as opposed to 323. Now, that means that you have 110 times better chance of dying from contaminated food than by an act of terrorism. Interesting. Billions are being spent in this country to protect us against terrorism. And so it should be, because I want to get on a safe airplane. I don't want to be driving down the street and have a building blown up and come down on me. I want my family and friends protected. We must spend this money. It's a time of war. We spend in the United States approximately $75 billion a year to protect ourselves against terrorism. $75 billion a year. However, to protect us against contaminated food, because this money comes through the House of Representatives, do you know how much money they spend? About $1.1 billion a year. $75 billion for terrorism, $1 billion to protect us against contaminated food. And it's because there isn't enough money to go around to put in the necessary inspection programs. Let me give you an example of what happens when you don't inspect foods. And we don't do it in this country the way we used to, or as we should, because we're spending money every place else, not just terrorism. We got money going out for everything, it seems. There's an operation called Jensen Farms. They raise cantaloupes. Jensen Farm raises cantaloupes. What could be better than cantaloupes? In 2011, their cantaloupes got sick. They had toxic cantaloupes. 33 people across the United States died because of those toxic cantaloupes. They ate the toxic cantaloupes that Jensen Farms grew. Do you know something? Jensen Farms had never been inspected by the FDA. It was not in the FDA's program. They did not have enough money to check cantaloupes. 33 people died. Let me talk briefly about the Syrian settlement. I've left it to the middle of the show. We've heard so much on TV and the newspapers that sometimes you get sick over it. I do not like the arrangement that's been made between our Secretary of State and the Russian Secretary of State. I mean, the whole problem, we've avoided war, which is good. But the whole problem is, I don't think this agreement's going to hold up in the end. Assad has agreed to get rid of the chemicals. He's going to give us a list, I think, over the weekend. Within 1 week, he had to give us a list of all the chemicals. And then it was announced that by the end of 2014, Secretary of State Kerry said this, by the end of 2014, all chemicals will be removed from Syria. I don't understand this. Because while all this stuff was going on for 2 or 3 weeks and we're heading for war maybe, the word was there are 75 to 100 locations for the chemicals. There's, I don't know, 1,000 or 100,000 tons of these chemicals. To just bring these chemicals together would take 5 to 10 years. It would take 70,000 people. The United States government, April of this year, said it's going to take 70,000 people to collect this stuff. You can't burn it in the desert. You'll make people sick in the surrounding countries besides Syria. So you have to build a special plant to get rid of the chemicals. That takes 5 to 10 years to build and takes another 10 to 20 years to burn them all off. How the hell are we going to get this stuff out of there by 2014 and get this thing done effectively so it's not a problem? We're told they're going to use experts. Well, who burned these before? We've done this in Iraq and other places. And they're still going on. 16 years later, we're still burning chemicals in Iraq, by the way. Who's going to do this? What experts? You had experts doing it before. You've got to be an expert to know how to get rid of these chemicals. Oh, we're going to use experts. I think this thing's a joke. It isn't going to work. It helped to resolve the problem over whether we're going to go military or not, but I think we've been sold the bill of goods with all due respect. Now, Saudi Arabia is involved in this whole thing. Saudi Arabia wants to be the kingpin of the Middle East. They're the kingpin of oil. Remember, they're head of OPEC. They're big, and they're our friend. Always remember that they are our friends, the Saudi Arabians. Except I don't understand how they're our friends. If they control gasoline and they control OPEC, Why is the price of gasoline in the United States, it kept going up and up and up? Our friends didn't take care of us and keep it down, down, down. The other thing is that on 9/11, 15 of the 19 people who drove those airplanes into the buildings and everything else, 15 of them were Saudi Arabian citizens. Stay with me, I will be back.